In my last week video, I mentioned how I was going to talk about how you can actually build wealth from a rented apartment, because I mentioned how a lot of people have that thinking or that thought that if you do not want to build a house from buying your first land, then you have not arrived. So it seems like the definition of wealth is that, oh, I built my own house. And I do not blame these persons, because growing up, a bunch of us that either had parents that were civil servants, or even if they were not your parents, you had friends whose parents were civil servants. And one thing that was the symbol of, oh, they are doing well, is that they bought their land, they built the house, and they moved to their site. We call it site in Nigeria here. So that's a symbol of, oh yes, they've hit it in life, they've made it in life. They have their own house. We will have our own house now. So that's the same mentality, or the same thought, or the same thinking process that a lot of people have carried on from that thing that they knew growing up till this very moment. I'm here to change your orientation, because if you do not change that orientation, you would most likely end up like a bunch of those parents, or those your friends' parents that you saw growing up. Now, reminisce again, very truthfully this time around. Aside them having that apartment, was there something else that they really achieved? Did you see that you could notice like a form of wealth? Well, like they built wealth just because they built that apartment. Was there anything like that? Think well and be honest with yourself. Except the person built that house to rent it out. But if they built that house to live in it, if you can think back, you see that they only just had a house, right? And there was really nothing more that was able to, like, you can pinpoint to and say this person has built wealth, even though they had a house of their own. So, dear young person listening to me today, I like to talk a lot to young people, because I believe that when you acquire the knowledge of financial literacy early enough, when you have some kind of reorientation about the things that you used to know that were centered around maybe how people got to invest money when you were growing up. When you reorientate yourself, you can really build wealth. But if you don't reorientate yourself as a young person, you will most likely end up like them. And if you're listening to me, congratulations to you, because I want to assume that either you are very young and want to really start in time to build this wealth thing we've been talking about, or perhaps maybe you're older and you want to see how you can take a few steps back and do something differently. So let's get right into it. You're welcome to my YouTube channel. How can you get to buy land and build wealth from the land without building your house? Number one, your house is not an asset. See, any house that you build and you live in it, it is not an asset. What is an asset? This man I listen to a lot, Shady Assistant, he defined an asset as something that you own, and a liability as something that you own and owe. Another way to define an asset is that anything that makes you money, that puts money into your pocket, is an asset. Anything that takes money away from your pocket is a liability. Now, if your parents built a house when you were growing up, did that house make you money? Now, don't even give me we stopped paying rent. In the real sense of it, calculate how much your parents built that house with and how much you've paid in rent for maybe like 20 years. And you be able to equate, you see that the amount that you've paid in rent for that period of years and the amount that they spent on building the house. Now, factor this in. When people started building the house and they didn't finish building the house like 5 years later. Now, factor how long time it took, how much it took within that length of time or that space of time. And some people actually start building the house. It's not yet completed, but maybe they just finished doing some, what's that thing called? They cemented the floor, and let's just move in. We'll continue building, right? Just do the costing and you will see that that house, in the real sense of it, is not putting any money in your pocket. So when you build a house and you're staying in it, it's not an asset. It's a liability. It's the only way you build a house and you're renting it out that it becomes an asset. So dear young person, or dear, I want to do it right, I need the knowledge too. When you are buying a land, do not think of buying a land and your next thought is, because I want to live in it. This guy, Sir Fola Jomi, he was on a podcast with Paul Fu, and he said something that, he said, we young persons coming up today that are buying lands, we cannot afford to buy lands in the places that we live in. I stay in Alalubosa GRA. lands around Alalubosa GRA or in my GRA right now, they are around like 50, 60, 70, 80 million, depending on the part of the GRA you are buying. Rent around there, the average rent, I think maybe for like a bed is like maybe like 1.5 million. I pay about 3 point something million naira in rent for a year. Now I can afford that rent, but I can't afford a land in my GRA. So where do I buy a land? I can afford a land elsewhere that costs like maybe like 1 point something million, 3 point something million. So I have lands in Ekpe, I have lands in Ibadan that cost me around that range of 1 point something to 2 million. The one in Ekpe, I have a payment plan that I'm paying up for in a period of 6 months, which is about 7.5 million for 6 months. So I can afford to buy a land in those places where I don't want to live in yet. But where I'm presently living in, I cannot buy a land there. So in our own present day, how you build wealth is that you can stay in your choice area. But when you are buying your properties, buy properties. Don't go and think of, oh, I cannot buy a property where I'm staying. I don't want to buy land. I don't want to buy bush. It's that bush that will give you that wealth. That's why I'm saying, don't think of that you want to buy that land and live in it and build a house and stay in it. Because if you think like that, you will limit how much of an investment you can make. But if you are thinking to yourself that I can stay in my rented apartment and buy a number of properties within where I can afford, because the bush of today becomes the city of tomorrow. Where I stay again, my aunt came there a few days ago and she was like, she remember when about 15 years ago, where the area in which I'm staying in Alalubosa GRA right now in Ibadan, that area used to be bush, that our dad had a farm in that axis. And that's where it is being sold for how much today? The list in my estate is like 50 million. That's the list in my estate in Ibadan. And then it was what? Farmland, complete farmland. So you can go ahead and buy those bush now that will later become the city. That's how you should think. If I wanted to be fixated on, oh, I want to buy where I can stay. Imagine I want to buy Alalubosa GRA and I'm saving. But how long will it take me to save up to buy a property? And mind you, as you are saving up, land is increasing. Land increases over time. So as you say, oh, I'm saving up, I'm saving up. The cost of the land is going up. Why not buy where you can afford and keep buying periodically? So take away from your mind building, because oftentimes than not, most people that actually buy these lands, you don't even have the bulk money to build. And the more you start your building and it begins to take a long time, factor in inflation. I hope I'm making sense to you right now. So think like an investor. Build wealth from your properties. Don't be fixated on, I want to buy land where I can live in. Have people that come to me as clients, or so say, where you are selling is bush, oh, I want to buy in Bodija. I tell them how much to buy property in Bodija. They're like, I don't have it, oh. Or I ask, what's your budget? They'll say between 1 million and 1.5 million naira. Is this a joke? So please, I hope I've been able to reorientate you today. Do not think of building when you want to buy, especially your first land or your second or your third. As long as you don't have the bulk money to build that house, keep building aside. Stay in your rented apartments. Buy land and keep buying them. Keep amassing them. You are building wealth 1 plot or 2 plots or 3 plots or 1 acre at a time. Alright? Don't be crazy about sacking your landlord. You don't have to sack your landlord to build wealth. Some landlords are even just there. They're not even as rich as some tenants. So make use of that. Be smart about it. Do your calculations. Buy land and keep buying. If you have any more questions on everything I've talked about, the comment section is all yours. There's something you'd like me to talk about, the comment section again is all yours. Share this video to that person, that young person that you know has this mentality of I must build. Please send it to them. Let them learn today and get reorientated. Subscribe if you have not subscribed yet, and share this video and turn on post notification. I will see you next week.